Noon in Georgia hits different. The yard turns into a skillet. Heat comes off the concrete like breath, and the whole place smells like rust sweat. Cheap tobacco. That's the moment a circle closes on me. Iron cross tattoos, shaved heads. A man named Tommy Briggs, smiling like he's about to teach a lesson. Camera 12 is blinking red over the fence. Guards pretending to be statues, everybody waiting for me to do the one thing they think I'll do. Kneel. You know what I mean? Tommy taps ash on my chest, presses the lit end into my shirt like a brand, whispers, "Tomorrow you kneel or you die." And the crowd laughs because humiliation is the noon show here. But I just look at him and let him see it. Not anger, not pleading. Just that quiet you learn after you've survived a place where the horizon was nothing but gunfire and sand, and I think, yeah, that happened, but tomorrow's mine. That night I don't sleep, not in Greystone, not with that siren whine that comes and goes like a mosquito in your ear. I sit on the metal bunk and count my breathing because counting is the only thing they can't confiscate. Kandahar rolls back in one of those days where the heat distorts everything and the radio makes you doubt your own ears. Fall back. Leave them. A voice colder than the desert at 3 a.m. A signature that wasn't written in ink, but in blood. My team paid the bill, and the ledger said I was the one who signed it. Truth be told, that's the kind of line that keeps cutting long after the bandages are gone. So I stare at the ceiling light that never blinks and say it under my breath, so the walls can hear I'm not kneeling. Not. Noon. Again, the yard is packed tight. The circle forms like a ritual. 2 big guys shove me toward the middle. Tommy crouches with a stick shaved smooth. His smile is a threat with good posture. Say it. He tells me I know my place, and the men around us start chanting, wanting the words, wanting the bow, wanting the moment. They can carry around like a trophy. I give them silence instead. Let the quiet stretch until it's heavy. A guard in the tower shifts his weight like a soldier who recognizes stance, and when Tommy finally swings, I don't make a show of it. I do what years inside a kill house taught me to do. Dip a shoulder, center, drops a half-inch hips, turn heel, punches, rib his feet, leave the ground. He hits the concrete hard. The noise gets sucked out of the yard like a fuse just burned out. I didn't hit you, I tell him. I just didn't kneel, and I don't flex, don't grin. I just let Camera 12 drink it in, because some fights aren't for the men in the circle. They're for whoever is going to look away when the paperwork arrives. They toss me in the box for that bleached steel, a white light that hums like a lie. I sit there and the building settles, and somewhere a pipe knocks a slow rhythm. Then I hear a voice through the vent. Low, rough, careful. You once saved me at Tora Hill. The accent pulls a thread in my head. You don't remember me, Commander Shaw. I'm a mirror, and the concrete around me shifts because memory isn't a place, it's a temperature. You were ordered to fall back, he says. You didn't. They needed a scapegoat. A general signed the bombing anyway. I ask the only name that matters. Who? And he says it like he's sliding a key under the door. General Leonard Adams. And the man who verified the purge order was Henry Briggs, and that name snaps the air because Briggs isn't just an old signature, he's a father, and his son is standing in my yard yelling about order. Upstairs, Warden Reed drinks cold coffee and acts like he doesn't smell smoke. Phone calls with voices that don't ask for permission. Just compliance. A quiet deletion here, a transfer there. Make people into paperwork and then into absence. That's the trick. Meanwhile, the young guard from the tower. Warren Holt stares at the frozen frame of my kick and makes a choice. Nobody will congratulate him for. He backs up the feed, writes a code only he knows. Breathing shallow like a man teaching himself not to shake. And in admin, a woman named Lisa sees Reed sign an order that makes me a ghost. She slides a tiny drive into her pocket. You can call that courage, or you can call it stubborn decency. Either way, a bullet finds her later glass and the carpet blood on the keyboard, and the building swallows her name. That night, the power cuts like a blade. The dark feels physical. 3 silhouettes slide into my cell with pipes. I pop the cuff off my wrist, let the chain ring once for God, and whoever else wants to listen first. One goes down with the edge of my forearm. Second takes a knee. He won't forget. Third learns that momentum is not a plan. The flashlight spins across the floor and makes its own little sunrise. I hear a young voice in the doorway, breathless, excited, scared. 3 minutes, he says. I killed the grid cameras offline. Door's confused. You want records? You want proof. We go now. The kid's name is Rico, a hacker who wrote a tool the prison stole. He grins like he still owns it. And maybe he does. We move through the artery of the building, cold air from the server stacks, a hum that tells me I'm close to something true. Warren is there already, jaw-tight lip, split eyes too clear. "I've heard your name," he says. "Afghanistan. I think you pulled my team out." I shrug because I don't know how to hold gratitude like a secret. He plugs the drive, peels back a partition that was meant to be a locked grave, and then the screen fills with plain words that feel obscene. Delta Operation Purge Directive Authorization, General Leonard Adams Verification, Chief of Operations Henry Briggs, and it's like hearing the same lie in two different rooms. It takes up twice the space on another feed. A camera shakes and shows a smear of blood where a mirror should be. Records vanish. We don't get to mourn properly right then and there. We decide to make the yard watch what power looks like when it forgets it's being recorded. Next noon, the sky is white hot. The big screen that usually cycles rules and yard schedules blinks to life with a boardroom that isn't supposed to exist. Reed at the table, Sheriff Briggs with a stare like polished marble, General Adams in uniform with medals too shiny. The audio is clean. "Erase Shaw before anyone starts asking questions," the general says, and you can hear every syllable bounce off the concrete. The circle around me doesn't hoot. Now they listen like they've been indicted. And Tommy looks up at the screen and sees his father's name under the word verification. His whole face collapses an inch, like someone pulled a bone out of his cheek without telling him. I look at him, and I don't gloat. I say, "See now? Your father turned you into a weapon. You can be a son, or you can be a man." Picky tries to charge because muscle memory is loud, but men around him don't move, even the ones with matching tattoos, because truth dropped in the yard is heavier than fear and everybody can feel the ground change. That's when the containment order comes down. Not from Reed, from higher, the kind of voice that says the word civilian, like it's a smudge. Towers, light up radios, spit static and commands at the same time. Fire starts in Block D, guards break ranks because conscience is messy. Warren calls me from the crawl space under the server room. Westgate has a legacy lock. I can pop it with a battery. I put a hand on his shoulder. "You don't owe me that." He gives me half a grin and the kind of nod that makes you hate heroes. "You pulled me off a ridge. I owe you the rest," and he's gone a beat later. The Westgate screams like steel being punished. Smoke punches the hallway. We grab who we can. Rico coughing, Earl limping, 3 men who never learned to run. We go because staying will mean we never speak again. Outside is not freedom. It's triage. I wake up under white lights with bandages and a plastic cup of water. I can't taste. Elena Cruz sits down and puts a recorder on the table. She has those eyes. Reporters earn the kind that stay on you when you dodge. "You don't owe me a confession," she says. "You owe the ones who can't speak. We talk not about vengeance, about names and signatures and how power launders itself. And then the hearing happens. DC. Marble and microphones. They give me a suit that doesn't fit my scars. General Adams sits across the aisle wearing certainty like a cologne. He tries the word traitor on my skin. I say, "Soldiers sign up to risk their lives, not their names." Elena plays footage from Greystone Adams walking through a gate he swore he'd never seen, his signature on a visitor log pinned to the bottom of the screen like a nail. The room tilts. People murmur. The gavel pretends it can fix the room's pulse. Then Earl stands up in the back. Old bent voice like a saw. "I saw a black man beaten to death in that yard." He says the boy at the fence that day. Same eyes as him. He points at me and the air goes thin. I don't want to be anyone's symbol, but I know what it costs to look away. They cuff Adams, they suspend Reed, they start pulling thread out of a sweater that didn't keep anyone warm, and for 3 days the country argues about me like I'm a test. Some say hero, some say problem, some say both. I don't get high on any of it. I get a letter instead. Crumpled paper, ink pressed hard. Tommy's handwriting crooked and raw. "You spared me," he writes. "I thought being feared meant I was safe. My father used me. I used everyone else. I can't ask forgiveness, but I can regret." I fold the note and tuck it into a pocket. I don't wash for a week, not because I need the words, because a man choosing a different voice deserves a witness. They offer me protection, a new name, a new town, a new life. I say no, not because I'm brave, because I'm tired of doors without sky. I go west, rent a sandy lot by a cheap motel, build tables out of scrap, hang a hand-painted sign, the Shaw Initiative. Learn to stand. Kids come with eyes that scan a room before they enter it. We practice how to bandage a cut, how to breathe into a panic, how to hold eye contact without flinching. A boy sits quiet at the end of the table. His last name is Holt. He asks if being scared means you're weak. I tell him the truth. Fear is honest. It tells you there's something worth protecting. Courage is just moving anyway. He nods like he's putting that line in a pocket he'll reach for in a storm. If the story ended there, we could all put our phones down, but darkness doesn't retire. It waits. Elena sends me an email with a subject line that tastes like a chill. White dawn is rising, a video of men with covered faces and fancy words they talk about restoration, like it's a pressure wash for conscience. They flash a white sun on a flag and say, Phase 2. I watch it twice. Breathe slow. Call Elena. Keep the file safe, I tell her. And this time, don't stay on the sidelines, because if there's one thing I learned in the yard, it's that silence is a team sport. We stand in what used to be gray stone, now a memorial gray steel cut into a shape people keep calling me the man who didn't kneel. I touch the metal, and it's hot under the noon sun. A camera clicks. Children point a plaque, lists names that used to only live in my chest. Lisa Kim Warren, Holt, Earl Jenkins, the ones who didn't get a podium but carried the story anyway. A student asks if I was afraid. I say yes, because lies always thrive when fear is shame. You call it by its name, you let it sit in your lap, and then you get up. Courage isn't the absence of fear. I tell him it's moving even while it talks. Back the kid nods, and I see something unclench behind his eyes. Maybe he decides right then to stand taller the next time someone tries to make him smaller. Maybe he just decides to breathe slower. Either one is a victory. I know some of you want closure, a clean bow, a last shot that says the credits can roll, but the truth is messier. Reed pleaded that he followed orders. Adam screamed that history belongs to victors. Men with clean desks got dirty indictments and suddenly remembered how to look human in handcuffs. Tommy died later in another prison. Hart stopped in a room that didn't have windows. A guard found a letter in his Bible thanking me for not finishing the job. I read it once and thought about how people learn their names from the rooms they grow up in. How hard it is to write a new one. And I thought about how justice moves, not like a hammer, more like water finds the cracks, keeps going. So if you ask me what changed the day I refused, it isn't that I became a hero. I became responsible for the guys who followed me through smoke, for the woman who slid a drive into her pocket and paid for it, for a kid who took a deep breath in a room that always smelled like fear. That's why I'm telling you this in a voice that isn't polished, because life didn't send me a teleprompter. It sent me a yard at noon and a circle of men who thought they could define me without knowing my name. It sent me a camera and a choice bend or stand, and standing cost what it cost, but it paid for something I can live with. If you stuck with me this far, here's your part. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if a room ever decided who you were before you spoke. Tell me if you think order without justice is just a costume drop, what you've seen in the comments. Argue me, agree with me, push back if you need to. Yeah, that's allowed. Truth doesn't bruise that easy. And if you've got a story about the day you didn't kneel, share it, we'll carry it with you, and hit subscribe if you want the follow-up. Because the folks talking about White Dawn think they get the last word, but they don't. Not if we keep our eyes open, not if we remember the yard, the heat, the circle, the moment one man said no, and everyone else remembered they could too.